Did Maya get you sick?
What?
Did Maya get you sick?
Yeah. Like bad. What did Maya fucking get? I'm not even sick. And she's like Berta. Well, I feel like I was on edge until oh, bad. Oh, so bad. Yeah, I received it from the first one. I just, hey, you know, that was the conclusion. Like every time she passed you, like flinching.
you get the like challenge, extra credit, or something on
I know.
You practiced it? You practiced it?
Yeah, this morning.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know if I had time to set that one up correctly for an awful lot.
We go to bed every night. It's not gonna be me, because I have to wake up at 4:15.
So what time you practice?
6, we have to be there.
You think it's a lift something that's important.
We have to set up, okay, we also have to set up all the remotes. We have to set up, we have to measure all the base hits before we
That
start.
makes
That
sense.
takes
Your
15
lift-
minutes.
Your lift 30 minutes early is
Inside, 30 minutes.
like, I show up like 12 to 15.
I'm gonna show up like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Before.
Well, we usually start the 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's probably pretty
I have to go finish one.
So you said you're.
My coach.
She's at 9 a.m. How do you feel about yeah, but like she's like, I think she's gonna get she's gonna be right. Yeah, she does not. She does not feel like she's gonna look good. This is your recording. This is the. This is not gonna be done. That's like never comes to place.
Remembering that concept.
Every example, we just need to open every sentence. Yeah. I think, oh, too wide, that's my knee. I really want to get a small one. But I don't go on my phone. Yeah.
Well, happy Wednesday, what is it, February 4th? So, we're going to start with some announcements. One is that your exams are graded. I posted your scores on Blackboard. There's still one student that needs to take the test, so once that student takes the test, then I'll return those exams to you. So that's where we are with that. Let's see, we're going to start off with some this extra credit opportunity coming up here. So Megan, I think you wanted to speak about the Valentine. Let me see if I can get this on the screen here.
Mallory, do you want to speak on it too?
Oh,
Or is it your event too?
So on Monday, February 9th, from 2 to 3, over in the conference room next to Dr. Suji's office, Women STEM, Pre-Health Society, Bio Club, and Chem Club are combining to do a Valentine's event. We are making Valentine's cards for the nursing home in the surrounding area. You will get volunteer credit, so if you need like volunteer hours, you can come to anyone on eBoard and we can sign off on them. Supplies are provided, so you don't need to bring anything. If you have something you would like to bring, you're more than welcome to.
And 5 extra credit points for attending. So Megan's gonna keep a tally of names, so make sure you get your name on the list. Okay. All right, so that's coming up soon, right, on Monday. Right? All right, any questions about extra credit? Making cards, helping our seniors. All right, very good. next Tuesday, we're gonna have a guest speaker on campus. It's actually one of my former students who now works at the Toledo Zoo. And she has actually gone on a number of experiences abroad. Like a couple of years ago, she went to Australia and was part of a team that brought back Tasmanian devils to the Toledo Zoo. They shot a really cool video, a documentary about that. This time around, she went down with a team from the Toledo Zoo to South America, in the Amazon, where they're doing conservation work with a primate called the pied tamarin. So this is actually going to take place on Tuesday. So next week on Tuesday, 1 o'clock in this room. So for those, so we're actually going to use this as a for part of our lab, our Tuesday lab session. So for those who are signed up for that 1 o'clock afternoon lab, come to this room in the afternoon at 1 o'clock and for the presentation. And then after the presentation is done, then we're going to go back to the lab and do some work there. For those who are signed up for the morning lab, if you can, try and come to the 1 o'clock presentation. I know you have other things scheduled there, but if you can't make it, then I will provide you with a link to the video recording of that. So just kind of let me know. But anyways, next Tuesday for the morning session, meet in the lab. We're going to do a little bit of lab work, and then we're going to have a short lab on Tuesday morning, so then you will have time to hopefully attend that afternoon presentation. I'll remind you, I know that was a lot. I'll remind you on Monday. Any questions about that? Okay, very good, very good. All right, so looking ahead here, we're going to actually begin chapter number 5 in your textbook. Originally, I was thinking we could squeeze in like 4 chapters of material for your next test, which is scheduled for the end of February. But in hindsight, I think that was just a little bit too ambitious. So we're going to trim that down. So we're gonna cover chapter number 5. We're going to skip chapter 6. So originally, if you look on the syllabus, I had chapter 6 on there, so don't worry about chapter 6. But we are going to jump ahead to chapters 10 and 11. So we're going to go from chapters 5 to 10 to 11. So 10 and 11 were originally on the schedule. So then we'll have like 3 chapters before our next test, which is, I think it's like February 27th. Which is that Friday right before spring break. And some of you, I don't know if you already have plans for that Friday before spring break. Just let me know, and I can get that exam ready for you before then. Or if you're up for taking the test after spring break, I don't know if you want to do that. But if that works better for you, let me know. But I will make accommodations for you if you already have something planned, for that Friday before spring break. But spring break's coming up. Yes, it is. So just I think you know that, right? All right. Any questions about that? Chapter 5, 10, and 11, and then the next test. February 27th. Just like before, take notes on these chapters, and I did set up an assignment on our Blackboard. Hopefully it works so that you can upload your notes before the next test, which is at the end of the month. So, yeah, let me know if you're having any problems uploading those notes. Questions? All right, no questions. You guys are easy to work with, so I appreciate that. All right, let's learn something new here. So we're looking at the control of microbial growth. So we learned about some of the conditions that are needed for growth. Things like water availability. They have preferred temperatures, things like that. And knowing that information, we can then alter the conditions to prevent growth, or what we refer to as control growth. So a lot of this will be a nice transition from what we learned before. Well, in one of the lab sessions where we sampled bacteria from different parts of the body, we learned that, wow, there's not very many bacteria on your fingers or your hands. And we discovered, well, that's because you're doing a really great job of washing your hands with soap and water. And I think you've been kind of indoctrinated into that practice. Like when you're little, you're probably told by your parents, like wash your hands when you're coming in from outside. Wash your hands before you eat. Wash your hands after you use the bathroom, things like that. So it's been kind of inculcated in your minds about doing that, even though when you were a little child, you probably didn't know why you were doing it. Like, why am I washing my hands all the time? Well, we now realize, that's a highly effective method for removing microorganisms from our skin. Now, you can imagine there was a time when people did not know that. So that's what we're kind of beginning with, a little history lesson that, before the 1900s, operations used to occur, and physicians or surgeons would not wash their hands. They would not have sterile instruments. These operations would occur in people's homes or outdoors. Because they didn't have any idea that disease-causing organisms, could be present in the environment or in or on their bodies. But now, we have a much better understanding of that today. This photo here kind of reminds us that the microbes are not just on our skin, but they're also inside of us too, and that we can, potentially spread through exhaling. So it's not just from coughing or sneezing, but just by breathing, breathing out, we can actually spread microorganisms. For example, the tobacco plant is susceptible to diseases just like we are. And tobacco plants are infected, are commonly infected by a virus called the tobacco mosaic virus. And now, when you smoke cigarettes, when you're burning those leaves, you're inhaling those fumes into your lungs, you are also inhaling the tobacco mosaic virus. So, if you smoke tobacco, you are spreading that virus around just by breathing. All right, so there was a time when people didn't know about these microorganisms, but then people like Joseph Lister actually thought that maybe there was some benefit to actually washing hands before surgeries. So that name probably sounds familiar to you, Lister, because he's the one that Listerine was named after. So one of the fun things about being in science is that when you make discoveries, you get to name things or have things named after you. So that's kind of fun. So he was the one that kind of came up with the idea that you could use like a liquid, kind of like a disinfectant, in order to wash your hands, remove microorganisms, even kill microorganisms. And so he was the one that came up with the concept of using what we call an antiseptic. The next slide will actually give us a definition of the antiseptic. But that notion of that we can kind of cleanse ourselves of these potential pathogens also led to the need, the realization that we can also the importance of cleaning instruments, things like scalpels, clamps, forceps, things like that are used. Well, we're going to go through some terms, including antiseptic. So I guess it's not I guess it is on this slide at the very bottom here. Yeah, we got this one right at the very, oops, sorry about that. We do have antiseptic at the very bottom. We'll come back okay, so what do we mean by an antiseptic here? Like, how does that differ from like a disinfectant? Well, in the laboratory, we're using, do you remember what we're using to disinfect our tables? The ethanol, right, 70% ethanol. So we're using that to, eliminate or kill most of the potential pathogens that are present. So think of the antiseptic as like a disinfectant, but instead of using it on inanimate objects, now we have chemicals that are relatively safe to use in or on our bodies. So think about Listerine, which is an antiseptic. Any of you ever use a mouthwash? Okay. Well, if you follow the instructions or directions, that's supposedly is safe for use inside of your mouth. Now that doesn't mean you're supposed to swallow it or drink it, but that's the idea. But you can also think about other disinfectants that are not safe for putting into your mouth. Something like bleach. Bleach is a very powerful, effective disinfectant. That's like highly recommended for, like if you need a go-to for cleaning, like getting rid of mold and mildew and bacteria. Make a solution of bleach and, it can be used on all sorts of stuff. But don't put it in your mouth. Okay, it's not because it could harm you. So it's not safe for use as an antiseptic. All right, the word on the top is sterilization. So that means like eliminating all microorganisms, including viruses. Why aren't we trying to sterilize the lab, for example, before and after use? Why not? Like, isn't that better than just disinfecting?
Because some can develop like resistance to it.
Yes, very good. It's actually very hard, really hard to like kill everything. You know, to sterilize. I know it sounds easy, right? But it's not. You probably heard, even if we were to drop a nuclear bomb on the lab, something would survive. It's like, well, wow. You know, that kind of speaks to the resilience, you know, of life, right? So fortunately, we don't need to kill everything in order to create a safe environment. And the concept here is that, you know, I think this will come up later in the textbook, but you need a certain number of these pathogens in order to cause disease. You need what is referred to as an infectious dose. Think of it as a load, you know, certain critical number. So in other words, you know, if you're exposed to just like, you know, one bacterium, that's not enough to harm you. But if you're exposed to 1 million, that is. So I mean, and then you know, in concept, there's going to be some kind of a threshold value, so that all you have to do is drop the counts, the number of bacteria below that threshold value that's needed to cause disease, and then you're safe. An extreme example, though, here's an extreme, though. One extreme example, though, is with E. coli in drinking water. Okay, so but what's the threshold value for that? 0. Okay, so drinking water, say if you have 0 E. coli in there. Okay, so that's like the extreme where, okay, we want pure water, right? But for most other things, it's not like that. Okay, more terms for you. So you've probably heard of these terms before. So we have decontamination. So you can imagine there are things that normally don't harbor pathogens. But if they are exposed to them, then we say it's been contaminated. So the opposite of introducing microorganisms, you know, removing microorganisms is what we call decontamination. So we want to try and remove organisms that are normally not found there. So that could be like if you have a spill. Like some of you spill chemicals in the lab on Tuesday. Oh my gosh. But what if you spilled your bacteria all over the table? Well, we would need to decontaminate. All right, then you probably also heard of the term sanitization. Sanitization. So that's a term that's often used when you have certain health standards in place. So, you know, we have health departments that set safe standards for, you know, how many, you know, for example, bacteria may be present on a substance that, where it's either harmful or still acceptable. So, you know, the standards could be, I talked about drinking water where the standard is 0, but you probably heard that, swimming pools and beaches, you know, the water can have a certain number of bacteria and still be safe, because the assumption there is that you're not supposed to be drinking that water. And then you can also imagine there's going to be some standards in place for foods that we eat. not just, cleanliness of restaurants, but the actual foods themselves, are supposed to have there's certain levels that are, of numbers of bacteria that need to be met with those as well. So that's things like processed foods, like canned foods, dried foods, packaged foods. It also includes things like medications, the pharmaceutical industry, like when you buy aspirin, there's some standards there for, there's not supposed to be microorganisms inside of that sugar pill there that you're taking. And so on. Same with air quality as well. So there's certain, set numbers there that ideally you want to, meet those standards. So that's done through sanitization. Then we have preservation. We talked a little bit about this before, how you can use your knowledge of factors that promote growth and use that knowledge in order to try and create conditions to prevent microbial growth. If you have organisms that are obligate aerobes, then vacuum seal foods, remove the oxygen that they need to grow. If you have organisms that require water, then dehydrate things and take the water away, and that will preserve foods. And then we have pasteurization. So now we're looking at using heat, heat to kill microorganisms, but not so hot that you end up altering the characteristic of the product that you're treating. For example, milk. What happens if you boil milk? It curdles, right? The milk proteins denature, they come out of solution. So if you boil milk, you turn a liquid into a solid. Right? No one wants to drink a solid. So Pasteur came up with the idea, well, you can still kill the microorganisms using heat, but use a temperature below which will cause denaturation. Okay. And then, this chapter is going to describe a number of different methods that you can use to control microorganisms. And it's kind of important to kind of keep in mind the situation in which you're dealing with here. So let's see if we can identify what are these possible situations. Let's start in the upper left. Where is that? where are those people? This one, right here.
Kitchen?
Yeah, commercial kitchen, right? So it's not not a person's home, but this is a facility where they're making lots and lots of baked goods for people, right? So how about upper right? You recognize this one?
Water treatment plant.
Water treatment plant, very good. Bottom left? Operating room. Okay, how about bottom right?
Lab.
You recognize what these are? You what?
No, we don't check who knows what.
No, you don't. Okay, someone needs to recognize those. Come on, you always think about drugs all the time. They're drugs. Medication, like blister packs. That kind of stuff. All right, so what are some common themes that we see here? To prevent microbial growth. What do you see in some of these pictures?
For the people who are in the operating room, they're wearing some gloves, the surgical caps, the face masks as well.
And it's not just in the operating room, is it?
Yes, yes.
It's also
Okay, yeah.
in the pharmaceutical
Yes.
lab, and also in the commercial bakery.
Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't, because you don't want individuals spreading organisms from their body onto, into a patient or onto, medications or foods that you may be consuming. Okay, look at our water treatment plant here. They're using, first of all, they're using settling tanks. So heavy stuff settles down, because there's a whole bunch of crud in the water, right? So heavy stuff settles down. And then the lighter things, and then they're skimming off the water from the surface, which is cleaner than the water down below. And then the water gets treated with primarily what chemical? Chlorine, that's right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on here. All right. So those are like in more like industrial kind of settings or business settings, but we can also kind of address, what are things that you can do. And we already talked about the importance of hand washing. But do you need to use soap? Yeah. What's the idea behind using soap? Why is that? Why are you supposed to use soap?
To get rid of like germs and bacteria.
Yeah. There are substances that are a little bit on the hydrophobic side that don't like water. So the idea with soaps is that you can create this like three-dimensional mycel that will actually encapsulate hydrophobic substances around a hydrophilic bubble, and then you can move that out using the water from the tap. And the other idea is to try and break up some of those cell membranes, the lipids that are on the outside of organisms too. Okay, so we got that. What's the advantage of cooking foods versus raw foods? It kills bacteria and other organisms, that's right. There was a time whenever you traveled abroad to some countries that may not have the same level of infrastructure as the United States, that it was recommended that you avoid eating uncooked fruits and vegetables, or just uncooked foods in general. Unfortunately, the United States is also suffering from a lot of foodborne outbreaks. So cooking has its advantages, right? All right, and then we already talked a little bit about those other things in the past. All right, here's some considerations for you for when we think about controlling microorganisms in the hospital setting. The first one here, weakened patients are more susceptible to infection. just kind of keep in mind that, like, who are the people going to the hospital? Are they like the healthiest, most fittest members of society? No, they're probably the opposite, right? They're probably a lot of elderly, like they're weakened. They may not have the kind of fortitude or immune system as you do. When they're so that's the idea. I mean, they're ill, so they're weak to begin with, and that may make them more susceptible to possible infections. And then the second part here, they may undergo invasive procedures. So what do they mean by invasive? Yeah, surgeries, they get cut open. So your skin is a formidable barrier to infection. So think of that as like your natural armor. Microbes can't penetrate easily through intact skin. They bounce off. But then the idea is if you do have a cut or a burn, that is what we call a portal of entry. Portal of entry, where infectious agents can enter into your body. So, when that happens, you are vulnerable, right? So you don't want people to cough and touch you and things like that. You want to cover up those wounds. Bandages, for example. Okay, last one here is a important insight or maybe a reminder. There was a time when hospitals were a site where you would quarantine diseased people from the rest of the population. Like if you were ill and you had some kind of disease, like, okay, don't, let's move you away. Go to the hospital. don't spread it to me. That kind of mentality there. So, knowing that, that ill people are the ones that are going to the hospital, it kind of makes more sense that that is a place where where you would find more pathogens than in other settings. So knowing that, I hate going to hospitals because there are what we call hospital-acquired infections. Hospital-acquired infections. That means you are healthy, but when you go to the hospital, you get ill. Isn't that horrible? All right, this just blows me away when I look at this picture here. So this is supposed to be like a sketch of an operating room after treatment of a patient that had Pseudomonas aeruginosa, which is a common bacterium that infects wound or burn patients. So this is like after surgery for that individual, and where you see all this red is where they found the Pseudomonas bacterium after the surgery. And it kind of just blows my mind when I look at that picture. Just how far the bacterium can spread, right? It's like, how did it get in the corner of the room? How come it's at the doorway? That kind of thing. And you can imagine, people are walking around, right? they can spread that way too. So things can spread through the air. as well. All right, so then, so hence the need to, disinfect, afterwards, right? All right, we've seen some of these biosafety levels before, so here's a reminder of those. So these are, standards set by the Center for Disease Control. All right, number 1. So we have microorganisms that are not known to cause disease in healthy individuals.
We're terrible though, so it's not really fun to watch.
Now in our high-tech modern environment, we still don't know, there's still a lot we don't know about. So not everything that is known is known. I'm sorry, not everything in the world is known. Okay. So, so it's important to kind of acknowledge that, and we see that written in that first one there, that there actually may be some bacteria that we're working with that may cause disease, but we just don't know about it at the time. But then we have number 2. So now we have, we may be working with some microorganisms that do cause disease, but we don't have to worry, be so concerned about being infected from those pathogens. One reason is because of mode of transmission. So, for example, there may be some bacteria in your petri dishes that may cause foodborne illnesses, but as long as you don't eat it, then you're safe. So that's the idea there. Or, well, anyways, let's just move on to 3 and 4 here. 3 and 4 are much more serious. So if we had those kind of microorganisms, we would need like special containment rooms for that, with special ventilation to prevent spread of organisms within the room. Like in the lab, we had those fume hoods, so we would have to just work in there for all of our work. And for number 3, these are microbes that are potentially fatal if inhaled. Number 4, very easy transmission. So in other words, the loads that's needed to cause disease are actually very low. It doesn't take much to cause disease, is what they're saying. All right, anyone remember under what conditions are we working in the lab? Number 2, you remember. What? You were actually listening? Very good. All right, let's see. What else we got going on here? All right, now we're moving on to, well, what about other kind of conditions here? Some of these are the ones that we saw on the slide with the 4 pictures on it. That one on the upper left corner showed us like a commercial bakery or food production facility. So we saw that, the workers were, had masks, gloves, gowns on. But how else do they control microbial growth? Well, one is that the products are they're baked, they're heated. That itself would kill the microorganisms. And another potential method is the use of irradiation. Now, that's probably more common in like in Europe and Canada than it is in the United States because people kind of have a fear of radiation. But I think you know that you know, if you're exposed to, you know, let's say you're exposed to X-rays, does that mean you become radioactive? No! Okay. But some people think that way. And so, because of that stigma of radiation, you know, these food corporations are too afraid to use this and have that label on foods. You know, like would you buy something that had a label on it that it was irradiated? Maybe not, right? Like, I'm scared. It may be radioactive. Okay, but it's not. But anyways, radiation is very effective at killing organisms. And then the more common method in the United States is to use chemicals, chemical preservatives. So when you buy a lot of processed foods, there's just this huge list of preservatives in there. And again, they're designed to slow the growth of microorganisms. All right, last slide for today. Remember that water treatment plant? And was it Blessing, was that you who said chlorine? Okay. Yeah, chlorine is used to treat water there. And that's actually a good thing because, you know, there's just so much potentially in drinking water that, you know, we really need to have effective means of treatment there. So you may have heard of that in the event of a power outage, or if there's like an overflow in the sewage system where the water gets contaminated or something along the lines, what should you do? What should you do with the water? Or what can you do with the water before you drink it? You can boil it, right? Okay, that's good. And that will help kill things that are in there. What else could you do? You could actually try and disinfect it. Yeah, you could actually buy like these iodine tablets and, you know, add it right into the water and drink that down. And then there's one more method I'm looking for here. One more method of removing microorganisms. Filtration, that's right, filtration. Okay, so you know, kind of keep those ideas in mind there. So this looks like a really good starting point here. And then we'll pick up more on Friday. All right, so have a great day, everyone.